You're welcome.
The other trailer I saw before it was the Tomb Raider trailer. Was the other one I saw before Justice League.
Oh,
Does that look any good at all? I haven't seen that trailer yet.
It has remarkably similar scenes to what they threw into the original Tomb Raider video game, like the new one that came out in the.
Yeah, it's very much in that vein. Yeah.
It's like there's scenes that look like this is straight out of the video game. You're like, this is like whoever designed the cinematography for these shots was like, I'm going to play the video game first, and then I'm going to try and film this thing.
Yeah,
like,
right.
well,
They played the game and they were like, "Oh, that worked really well. What if we just did that? I guess."
Let's have her get shot and fall off a log. That looked like it looked great inside the game. Let's just do that. And they do it in the trailer, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, because I remember that.
How bad are you gonna roll your eyes if there's a scene in that movie where she imagines she's dying, so they can put in one of those graphic death scenes from the first game?
Like a tree branch going through her neck.
Oh, I'm fine. Yeah, like
they're going to. They're going to.
The one thing that I thought was questionable is the very end of the trailer. They have her with her really long braid, holding two guns like she had from the Tomb Raider original games. And I'm like, oh my god, what is this? Because the whole trailer up to that point is okay. They're basing it off of the new games, and then suddenly of that scene, it's like, when does this happen?
Yeah. Oh, it's after she's in the enemy base and has, murdered everybody in there with a bow and arrow. She's like, oh, pistols, cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. I can
That's where she
fire
got them.
2 guns.
You went from having from having hair that goes down to her shoulders to having a long braid. That's why I was like, what just happened?
Well, there's also a wig there. There's a wig. Easy.
Yeah,
she just puts it on. Yeah.
It's a disguise. I get it. Okay, she's in the base. She needs a disguise. Sure, I get it.
We'll never know
it's
me in the jungle.
But it's also a flashback. That was before, and also she was in disguise in the flashback.
And then sadly, I saw the trailer again, which I have seen far too many times for the Jumanji movie, which just doesn't need to happen.
No.
No, I don't think it's going to be good, but I'm going to, here's my confession. I laughed a lot during that trailer. The original. I thought the second trailer wasn't as good, but I'm not going to lie, the line about the backpack made me laugh when I saw it the first time.
The being the gun carrying guy, is that one? That's the line?
It's like they ask him to go down by the water, and he's like, "You can't. I gotta carry a backpack. You can't get a backpack wet." Like something like that. I don't remember exactly the line, but it does make me laugh. I can't help it. I get a kick out of it.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna see that movie.
There can still be good writing inside bad movies.
Sure. I think it's gonna be a bad movie, but I have laughed a couple times during the trailers, and that might be enough to get me to watch it. Although it will probably not be in theaters.
Just rush right out.
I'll drag you.
I think Rampage will bomb more than Jumanji. I think Jumanji might actually get kind of a cult following. Again, because I think there's some funny stuff being shown there. Rampage just looked cheesy across the board. And I don't think anybody's
that like
go see
disaster movie, like The Rock versus an earthquake, like that made money. So like I feel like Rampage is gonna make some kind of money.
What was that called?
I don't remember.
San Andreas.
San Andreas, yeah. Yeah, it was literally like The Rock versus an earthquake.
Now, so if they had named it that, I would have gone and seen
it. Okay, I will say the one thing from Jumanji that made me like really, really laugh. Like, yeah, the backpack thing was good, but when they're going over their weaknesses, Kevin Hart, like one of his weaknesses is cake.
It's cake.
Then they're like in this bazaar, just kind of shopping or whatever, and someone offers him a piece of cake, so he eats it. They're like, "Oh my god, why'd you do that?" He's like, "What? It's just cake," and then he blows up and dies.
They'll have 3 lives tattooed on their arms.
Yep.
Like in video games.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We make that joke, but I have played the Jurassic Park game where you have to look at your boobs to tell how much health you have left.
Yep.
So.
Yep. I remember that game.
Wow, I never played that one.
Have not played that one.
There was another game called Babe that came out that was incredibly similar to that game.
Was it about a pig?
Nope. It was again about a character that you played that was female, and if you looked down, you could see boobs. It was another unfortunate video game made in the 1990s.
Is that how you told how much life you had left, or was
No,
it just
that
like
was
they
not.
just wanted you to remind you? They're like boobs. Hey.
So what's worse, like the fact that it's tied to a mechanic, or just it being gratuitous? I'm not sure.
I think it being tied to a mechanic is maybe worse.
I kind of
people have boobs. There are games where you look down and you see your body. It's not frequent, but that's that's a reality, and boobs are a thing that people have.
Yes.
So I think that's maybe okay. Now, if it's like, hey, check these out, like that's where it starts to get questionable.
Wicked Kitten asks a very important question. Did the boobs get smaller with less health? Like, how did this work?
You're right. I guess I should explain that because out of context, it probably doesn't make a lot of sense. There was a small heart tattoo on the top of the boobs, the part that was visible, and it was less or more filled in depending on how much health you had lost.
What the crap?
You know,
like seriously, what the crap?
By the way, that's how tattoos work.
Yeah, like how tattoos work.
Entirely. They all track progress of some kind.
Well, they change over time, you know, depending on your health and other physical conditions of yours. Your tattoos' appearances change.
Well, I mean, you know, I've got achievements tattooed just right here that I'm tracking for my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as soon as I hit like a certain, you know, pay grade or whatever, ding, and then it changes into something else and goes to the next one. So.
Yeah. That's just how it works.
A money sign that gets bigger and bigger.
Exactly. Exactly. Although on my right side, I have a piggy bank that just never seems to get filled up. So, you know,
it's like that Justin Timberlake movie where how much life you have left is just.
You know
constant...
what?
Oh,
that is a great movie until it turns into something else.
A bad one. Like most bad movies.
Yeah.
It's good
That's a movie where I think the first hour is actually okay.
Yeah, exactly. But like you kind of know what part I'm talking about.
Goes to the really high end fancy world. It's like that's when it starts to go down.
Yeah, it's like when they start Bonnie and Clyding. I'm like I checked out at that point. By the way, John, apparently you're coming in a little quiet.
I have upped my volume. I should be better now.
Cool.
I was still at the level from last week where I was able to go past the limit that I set for the audio level. And now I've set it back to where it was because now it seems to be functioning the way it was supposed to. So, great. Thank you, I'm going to say Windows. All right, we should probably switch this over to WoW because honestly, I could talk to you guys about movies and trailers and stuff all night, and I probably would because I'm having a good time. I'm having fun.
Well, you know, we're just going to have fun talking about WoW instead.
Oh no, I hate talking about WoW.
I don't know about that.
I never have anything to say about WoW.
Yeah, I have no opinions on WoW. I was a guest on Super Heroic once, and it was a little weird because it was before I started watching like Arrow and Flash and all of that, and one of the main topics was Arrow and Flash and all of that, and I was just like, these are shows.
I've heard of that.
No, that's when I was on there with you, and it was the Legend of Tomorrow, wasn't it?
Oh man.
Yeah, that's right. They were going into Legend of Tomorrow, and it's like, what do you think of that? And I was like, well, as somebody who doesn't watch Arrow or The Flash or Supergirl, I have no opinions. So
this was before your time, I think. Sorry, Daryl in chat is asking where he was for that. That was, I think, back when Mick and I were hosting it.
Yeah. So anyway, that was you know. That
can happen again, Daryl. There's the guy. He'll organize things.
But yeah, I would be on that show. Yeah, I love talking about superheroes and stuff.
It's fun
stuff.
All right, so you're at World of Warcraft.
We're gonna switch to World of Warcraft, everybody. We're gonna do it. Ben, do you want to tell them about the intro? How the intro works?
I'm just gonna kick it off because I'd like to say things like, "Welcome to Azeroth Roundtable, episode 243. My name is Ben Bumhofer. We've got a jam-packed episode this week with no plans whatsoever, which is always fun. But with me this week, as always, is John Jagger. How's it going, John?
Hello, Ben. It's Friday night again here in Azeroth. It's been forever since I've done that. And look, I love our BlizzCon coverage. I love doing the prediction show and then talking to you while we're in a car and then doing another prediction show where we find out results of things. But it feels like it's been so long since we just sat down and talked about World of Warcraft, and I'm just darn ready to sit down and talk about World of Warcraft, but we're not going to do it alone.
No, we're not.
That was a kick over to you. I was we're going to do some back and forth, and it was successful.
Yes, very successful. There was definitely no pause in there whatsoever because generally you introduce someone at that point, but I will because let's take turns here. So this week, like I said, we have a packed table. Sitting across from me is Spencer. How's it going, Spencer?
Hello. This is not my show. I'm on your show. It's excellent. Thank you for having us.
Good.
You're welcome.
Glad that didn't go awkwardly at all. And below me on the overlay, we have Jason. Hi.
Hi, Ben. Hi, John. thank you for having us. It's a pleasure. It's nice to talk to you guys over Skype. It was nicer to see you guys a couple weeks ago, but
Very true.
we'll take what we can get. And I'm excited because I had to do zero prep for this show.
Mm-hmm.
No
really
2
nice.
hours of show notes.
Me
for
too.
tonight.
Me too.
It's it's what we do. We invite guests, and honestly, okay, here's a little behind the curtain. Not that this has as if we don't have anything to talk about, but I used to think when we decided we were going to stop doing show notes, I used to think we should still do them because when I guested on other people's shows, I used their show notes as a reminder for when and where I needed to be places. So I thought, okay, we'll get rid of show notes, but what if we still sent people a link that just said, here's the time and place to be? That would probably be useful to them. And then I was like, they'll have to just figure it out.
Yeah. That's an interesting way to do it, John. I'm glad you never actually told me to do that because I would have called you crazy. But so far, you know what? Everybody's shown up when we've asked them to. So, it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, it's been all right. Nobody's been like, I forgot when and where. So,
yeah.
We must
well,
be doing
for
something okay.
For us, it was okay, you gave us West Coast time, so we'll convert it to our weird East Coast time, and then we'll go on the same page for that.
Yeah,
so
time zones are tricky.
Yeah, I usually go with West Coast just because it's closest to us, and I'm like, it's the extreme. You know where you are compared to that.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, plus
so it works out pretty well.
WoW players are used to everything being on Pacific time. I feel like.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like the universal language. So even though we're on Mountain right now, I feel like if we say Pacific, it's like, oh right, Blizzard time. Like,
even though the server we play on is East Coast.
Yeah.
We're East Coast and play on a West Coast server, so.
So
it's always great when you cross over like that.
Yeah.
Guys, I gotta ask you. This is like the big topic because when we're at BlizzCon, we have there's a glitz to it. It's like Hollywood. It's like, oh, we're here. It's very fancy.
It's nerd prom. It's a prom, right? It's nerd prom for
nerd prom.
For 48 hours.
You walk in on a red carpet. You're in your tuxedo.
It's true.
Yep.
That's how. I know the pictures don't reflect it, but it's what happens. We're not allowed to always show it, but that's how we do. So during all of that, everything's exciting. Blizzard could be like, we're giving you all hypodermic needles, and we're like, yeah, Blizzard hypodermic needles.
Wow, that's an extreme. That's really extreme.
I'm just
guys, we're getting into the medical products industry. Woo!
It's to illustrate
Finally.
the point.
You could brand them as like Mercy medical syringes, and then everyone would.
Oh God.
Yeah, they're like,
well, then we'd have syringe fights and throw them across the the hall at each other and everything.
Attention, BlizzCon. We need to ask that you please not use your Mercy syringes to stab your fellow con goers. Thank you.
I'm healing you.
But my point is, we'd be excited in the moment. We're now away from it. We've had time to ruminate, to think, to really come to terms with how we're feeling. And also, more information has gotten out there. Because if you were at the show, you probably didn't hear any of the news. Because that's the way the show works. So we've had time to go back and watch the VODs of the panels. There's been a dev Q&A. There's been a whole bunch of cool stuff. And I just want to get what's everybody's temperature at with WoW as it is now and for Battle of Azeroth coming up. Spencer. I want to start with you. I'm throwing you under the bus first.
That's fine. I can take it, John. I am actually quite happy with the state of WoW at the moment. We have the 28th coming up quick, which is going to be our next big raid cycle. I based on their previous chunk of raid release stuff, it's been every 5 months. So I'm fairly optimistic that in 5 months we'll be seeing the next chunk of big content, which will probably be pre-patch for the next expansion stuff, and all the expansion stuff that we heard, with the exception of we've heard nothing about professions. I'm pretty pumped about. I like that the angling fishing rods coming back, so all my fishing friends are very happy about that, and pet battle dungeons are coming back, and island expeditions look great. Like there's just a lot going on. So like I'm pretty pumped. I'm pretty happy with the state of WoW and the pacing that they're throwing out there right now.
Cool. I got to say that I do agree with you. It's like, they set a goal for a release schedule and everything like that with Legion. How, after Draenor, they're like, okay, we're going to keep stuff flowing. We're going to have it coming constantly so that you can, have something to do and be engaged in the game. And I mean, so far Legion's done such a great job with that. I'm expecting it next expansion at this point too. And the fact that they've got kind of, their stopgap planned out with some of the stuff and giving us new content in the meantime means that for right now they're still batting 100 in my opinion, or 1,000 or whatever it is, because I don't know baseball.
Yeah, batting 100 not super great in baseball, but
they're batting 1,000, man.
It's fine.
Batting 100 is great in the Darkmoon Fair bopping game for knocking out all the hoggers.
Gotcha.
100's amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's very much.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. Yeah,
that's spot on.
Jason, what about you? I mean, so much came out of BlizzCon in between. What are you thinking?
Well, this is kind of a weird spot that we find ourselves in, because I may be wrong, but I don't ever remember there being so much stuff left in a current expansion that hasn't released yet when we find out the big info dump about the next expansion. I don't think that's ever really happened before, not on this level. So that's kind of a weird headspace, because I'm excited for BFA, but I'm also excited about the Legion stuff that's coming in. Mm-hmm. But it kind of seems like I just want to move through the rest of Legion and into BFA. So I don't know, but I think they're going to keep us very busy, and Taurus looks like it's shaping up to be a great zone. And it's cool that we have some interstitial content to look forward to. 735 is going to at least have some new stuff to go do and check out. And that'll be really neat. And hopefully there'll be some other surprises as we get closer to expansion release. I mean, obviously, the question on everybody's mind is, how long is that gap going to be? How long are we going to be waiting for 8.0 and BFA? And I mean, I think it's safe to say that the gap is not going to feel, no matter how long it is, it's not going to feel as bad.
Right.
We're already in the spot where Antorus can't live as long as like Siege of Orgrimmar or Hellfire Citadel already did.
Yeah.
So even if it's as far out as it could possibly be, we're only talking about like 12 months essentially of Antorus. So that, I mean, I think that's reason to be optimistic. And I mean, I think the state of the game is very strong. There's a lot of fun stuff to do. I've been doing all kinds of stuff in game since I got back. I've been working on class campaigns for my alt. I started leveling up new alts this week. And then obviously, the new raid just puts the cap on the whole story and everything. So I got a few people I know that have been, kind of sniffing around, hopping back into the game. So that's always a fun time of the expansion when everything's out. Some people are like, okay, now I'll check it out because I can play through the entire story. All the catch-up mechanics are in place. So yeah, I mean, this is the best state that the game has been in leading up to like the back end year, like the second year of an expansion that we've ever seen. And yeah, I don't know, but it's weird because BFA it looks awesome. It looks like just building on all the stuff that we like about Legion. So that's very exciting. So it's like, once that stuff is out there, once we know what it is, it's so hard to not just want to jump right to that.
Well, and I think you raised a really interesting point. Sorry, I just want to jump in and comment.
No, you're fine.
No, go for it.
Really interesting point, which is that at BlizzCon, this is what I think this is the farthest out we've ever had an expansion announcement as far as the amount of content that we still have left in the game. Because I was really worried that, I mean, BlizzCon is the place to do this announcement. It would feel weird if they did this at Gamescom. It would feel weird if that's really where their focus was for this. It felt right to do it at BlizzCon, but they're really putting a lot of faith as Blizzard into this next raid and this next patch and 7.3.5 and everything like that to keep people playing. Because often you see when a new expansion's announced, what we've saw when we actually had numbers when they were sharing them, you'd see a drop off in subscriptions as people waited for the new expansion because they sort of feel like, what's the point of getting gear now when I'm just going to replace it with greens in X many months? So I'm going to step out of the game for a bit and come back when the new expansion comes out. So it's really Blizzard showing faith in, this is the product we're making, and what's left is still really good, and you're going to want to do it. And then there's this other expansion that's coming up that we're really excited about. So I think that's it's putting a lot of faith in the player base to keep playing between now and then with the new expansion coming out. And I think that's a new thing for Blizzard.
It's like they're giving us the potato skins of World of Warcraft before the main course of Battle for Azeroth shows up.
Yeah. I hope that's what it is.
Sure.
Yeah.
I kind of really want some potato skins right now. I'm not going to lie.
Ben's like, I'm thinking about potato skins. What's an analogy that works for me? Ben, what about you? How are you feeling about things right now?
Okay, so here's the thing. Like I said, there's so much content that's going through. Um, I'm mad at Blizzard because of that. Like, I love that it's there, but I'm mad because it's like I've got all these alts that I need to level to, get through their story halls. Because, I'm doing like Jason is. I'm going through all the different order halls, seeing the stories and everything. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying that. I'm getting class mounts. I recently got my shaman one, so I've got, little whirlwind, tornado whirlwind dude flying around underneath me, which is cool. There's other games I want to play, and this is usually the time when I'm playing those games. So it's just, it's a little bit of a bummer there, but at the same time, I'm still really enjoying and totally engaged in WoW. So the fact that, I get a new raid tier in a week and a half at this point, I'm super excited about that because it seems like for me, TOS is just at that point where I'm like, okay, I'm getting tired of this place. So perfect timing for me. I love the fact that there's going to be a ton of new content to play, and I hate the fact that I also need to level my Alliance Mage because I need to have it ready for Battle for Azeroth, and just like there's so much to do. And I mean, I'm kidding when I say that I'm mad. I love that the state of the game is in such a place where I'm still engaged, people are still engaged, people are coming back because of the excitement, and not only are they coming back, there's stuff for them to do. Because I think that's one of the issues that we've come across before with other expansion announcements, is that so way back at Gamescom, like 2 years ago at this point, Legion was announced. So people are like, oh, World of Warcraft is going to be great. And then they come back, and then they're just in this huge dry spell of the end of Draenor.
Right.
Whereas with this, Battle for Azeroth, this is going to be awesome. Yeah. And then, they come back in, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, there's new content that I can engage in. What is this, Argus stuff? If they, checked out before 7.2 even, I mean, there's so much to do at this point, and there's going to be just constantly more. So I'm really happy with what's going on.
Yeah, it was rough. I remember my big thing that I came back to going between Warlords and Legion, however many months it was between the announcement and it coming back, I was like, all right, I guess I should get back in there. And it took me that long to get flying. Not because it took that long to get flying, but because it was just like, oh, all right, I killed 3 things. I'm going to log out and call it a day there. I'll be back to continue this rep grind tomorrow. 3 things. Yeah. Ooh, I got to log out. It was rough, and I feel like we're at a place where I really only have one major goal left in the expansion, and not to say that that's all I'm gonna do, but there's one thing that's on my no, this has to happen before we move on, and that is I gotta finish my Mage Tower artifact fight.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I haven't done it yet. I was streaming the other night, and I was able to get her to about 30%, and that's about the best I've done. And I really, really want to get that artifact appearance and then unlock all the versions of it, which is going to probably involve me begging friends who are running Heroic to let me go and kill Archimond with them and just be like, please, I need this appearance so bad. I like it more than the moose. Please let me come with you. So
appeal to people's sympathies based on the moose.
Yeah. So I have that. That's on my to-do list. But I mean, that's something we can do after Antorus, right? Like, I mean, that's
absolutely.
I can go back when people are like, "Oh, you have to kill Heroic Archimond." Okay, geez, we'll do it with our eyes closed. Fine. So I'm not too worried that that's going to be a problem for me. But
and before we get emails, we know it's Kill Jaden.
Kill Jaden, whatever. They're all the same.
One of them's red.
It's all the same guy.
One of them's red, one of them's gray, but yeah, they're both bad guys.
People are like, John, this is the attitude that keeps you from being a winner of statues. So anyway, I'm very much focused on that goal. That's kind of my big goal. Beyond that, I don't know. Like, I've been a outlaw rogue, or a combat rogue as it was known previously, like basically for forever. So I don't anticipate me changing specs, because there have been times where I have ignored DPS advantage and all of that just to keep this spec. I think I still am. I don't think outlaw is considered very good, but I'm still just like, no, this is what I am. So I don't think I have to actually go in and try to unlock all the other stuff, and I don't think I'm going to worry too much about that. But this is my big focus, and even when that's done, I feel like there's plenty for me to do, which is very nice.
Definitely. So just kind of taking a step back really quick, this is WoW's 13th year. You know, the anniversary events and everything are going on right now, which is still blowing my mind that it's 13 years. I mean, I've only been playing it for maybe 11 at this point, I think. John, does that sound about right? Like the end of Burning Crusade?
Yeah, it seems.
Maybe 10 years for me. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems.
I should get a Burning
right.
Crusade statue because I've been playing for, that long, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah.
That's what.
Well, we hit the 9th anniversary for Wrath last week, so.
Oh, okay. Then yeah,
about 9-10 years. Yeah, if you came in the second year of TBC.
Yeah, that works. What do you guys think about how the game's actually grown in that time? I mean, there's talk of WoW Classic, and I mean, John and I kind of touched on it a little bit in our car episode, but I mean, it technically that would be potentially a 11 to 12-year-old game that is going to be brought back and be readily available for people. I mean, versus that compared to all the changes and growth and everything, like what have been some of the highlights? What do you think that Vanilla's doing right as opposed to now? I mean, like, what are your thoughts on the whole rigmarole of Classic versus where we are now?
I think that Classic is well, I think it'll be more like a fad that kind of happens for a lot of people. I think it'll bring a lot of subscription in right away. First of all, I think the subscription model will be it's free for accounts. If you already have a subscription to WoW, and if you don't, then you have to subscribe to WoW in order to get it, which then cross promotes between Classic and current live, so people will try both. I think that's what they'll probably try and do. But I feel like it'll be something that lasts 3 months of really intense people wanting to try it, and then it'll start to die off down to that hardcore group that want to do it a lot. But what does it bring? Like what exists there that's better than what exists now? The only thing I could say is if people were looking for an MMO that was there's a bit of a survival based trend that's happening right now in gaming, where a lot of people enjoy survival games that require a lot of day-to-day work to really just accomplish something. WoW was that. When I was playing back in Classic, there was 3 to 4 hours you had to spend a day if you wanted to do regular raiding and be competitive in regular raiding, that you had to spend going and collecting Black Lotus and finding people to do groups with, and like all that kind of stuff took a lot of time. So if you're someone who's looking for that kind of time sink, feeling like you've accomplished something in that more difficult trend of gaming, that's what you'd get out of Classic. But right now, I think the main draw for a lot of people is just the fact that it's a chance to experience something they never got to experience. So obviously, there's events there that they're going to be able to promote, like the opening of the gates and things like that, and they have to figure out how they want to handle those sorts of things. And we also don't know what patch state is going to come out in. We assume the final all bugs fixed patch that they could possibly release, and they're going to fix more bugs if they can before it goes live. So there's no like reckoning bomb thing happening that Paladins used to do back in the day. I would be surprised if they let people sit out of combat during boss fights to res during boss fights, because that was another big thing that happened a lot during all that Classic raiding. So it's in such a state of flux because it's so early on that we just don't know what they're going to release. But I imagine they have a lot of stuff they can promote. I just don't see it as being as huge of a big hype thing as once it will a couple months after going live. But Jason, what are your thoughts on the thing?
Oh, dude, I have nothing to say about Classic. Absolutely nothing.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to start with Ben's high-level query here, which is what is it about Vanilla that is good or that people want back? And I know what it is, and I don't think it can be recreated. What it is the sense of adventure and discovery and danger that the game world used to represent. We're going back to a time where we didn't have data binding, we didn't have Wowhead, we didn't have MMO Champ, we didn't have a lot of the in-game UI conveniences that call stuff out to you.
You have to read quest text to know where to go.
Yeah, I mean, WoW was a super daunting game to get into in 2004, because there wasn't a lot of direction. There was quests, and the quest system was like revolutionary when in the marketplace when WoW came out. Like MMOs didn't work like that by and large. So that was awesome. That was the most directed play that I had ever experienced in an MMORPG, but it's nothing compared to what we have today. So I mean, the appeal is that like you have that version of Azeroth, you have those original zones and storylines. That stuff is awesome, and I am actually looking forward to that. I'll make a tune on a classic server if it's included with my sub, and I'll go check out the zones that got cataclysmed, and I'll relive some of that and visit those places. I do think that they need to preserve the game state exactly as it was. If it's 1.13 or whatever it's going to be, they cannot muddle with it. They cannot add modern conveniences. That is not what
bugs.
the like. Bugs. They can fix bugs, yeah. I mean that's basically customer service affecting bugs, I think, or would be the ones to target. Simply because the audience that wanted this, that like nailed J. Allen Brack to a chair and demanded that this happen and violated copyright law to make this happen anyway, and all the steps that this crowd took, they want that original WoW experience, right? Ostensibly. I mean, I think that a lot of it was just, I want to stick it to Blizzard. I don't like what they did to my WoW, and I don't want to pay those jerks their sub, so I'm gonna just pirate it, and I'm gonna play the good version of WoW. And I mean, I can almost understand that the anger or that kind of like that sense of entitlement. Like I want this version of the game back, but I don't think that they actually want to play it. I mean, it is cool to preserve WoW 1.x for posterity. That version of the game literally no longer exists anywhere. It's like you could go play, even though they remastered it, you could go play old school Brood War if you want to.
Yeah.
You can't go play WoW if you want to. So I understand all that, but I don't know. I see it being a curiosity that people will check out for a little bit and then abandon. The game has moved on a lot. It has grown a lot. It has improved a lot in 13 years. If they weren't continually improving the game, why would we still be playing it?
Right.
If it was the same game that it was in 2004, why would we still be playing it? Like,
if they weren't doing something to it regularly.
Well, look, some people are playing EverQuest right now.
But they continue to improve that
that's
game
true.
and add
That's
features.
True.
Like if all WoW was vanilla forever, it would have died in 2008 probably. We'll give it that far. So I one thing I do think would be cool, and I have no idea how ambitious this is, but what if they rolled up classic servers and there were ones called like I don't know what they would call it, but some kind of like time walking classic server where they would release the patches on a schedule commensurate with the way the patches came out on live in 2004, 5, and 6.
So EverQuest did this.
Yeah.
And it was a super cool idea. Like the idea of like, hey, we're going to take you through the history. Like sign up for this server and we'll take you through the history of the game. And, you know, we'll lead you up to current at a set release window, and then we'll reset it and do it again. And you can go through the whole adventure. And it's a neat idea. But I'm 100% with you, Jason. Like, I'm going to say this. We've already gotten comments on our car video saying like, I don't know if it was trying to criticize us or what. It was hard to tell from the comment.
They're probably flirting with you.
Be more angry with your angry feedback, I guess. But saying that like we're maybe being salty on classic servers, fine. Like, guys, I'm gonna level with you. If you're excited about classic servers, I'm glad you're getting it. I will stand by what I said. I'm glad it exists. I'm glad they're doing it. And I'm super happy that you guys are getting it. Beyond that, this isn't the show for you. We talk about current WoW. Like, we're into current WoW. And, like, I think you are out of your damn minds for wanting to go back to classic vanilla. Like, again, I don't want to take it away from you. I'm very, very happy that you're getting it. But you are out of your minds. Like, for people who joined post-Cataclysm and have never seen it, I think it's awesome that there's a way for you to go see it. But I'll see you right back on current because that place has evolved. I liked WoW in vanilla. I was way into it in vanilla. That's where I started. But it's done nothing but get better. And it's gotten better for a good reason. So I genuinely, like, go out there, find the WoW Classic podcast, or do what I said would be my idea, which was I'm going to just rebroadcast all the old episodes of The Instance, and we'll call it The Instance Classic, assuming Scott lets me do that. That's what I want to do, and just go for it, I guess, because Go out there and enjoy it, but you're not going to get a ton of love for WoW Classic here, unfortunately. Like, I don't think any of us think it's super cool.
I don't mean to imply that there's no value. Like, there is value in it. It's amazing that Blizzard is even attempting to do this, considering that a couple years ago they said, we don't know if we can rebuild this. So it's cool that they're making this happen because people wanted it. And just in terms of like preserving what World of Warcraft was at launch or in that first patch cycle, I think that's actually important. I mean, WoW is a game that changed the world and it changed a lot of people's lives. We're having this conversation because of vanilla WoW. And there's something powerful about that, but like, I'm not going to sink time into that instead of BFA or whatever X8 is. Like, who knows when it's even going to come out, you know? If they drop it like in the middle of where like, okay, we're kind of done with this expansion's content, whatever expansion we may be on, then like, oh yeah, wouldn't it be fun to try to level to 60 before the next actual expansion comes out? Maybe, but you know, I probably have a million things to do on my alts and stuff. Like, an MMO lives and evolves, and it's a game that you invest time in over years. That's what I like about it. That's why I keep coming back, because it's my same main from day one, 13 years ago, you know, and I continue to benefit from the time I invest in that character. And I don't know. It's not for the mainstream. People will get some value out of it, and it's cool that it'll exist, but it's not going to fracture the player base. It's not going to be the thing people play instead of Battle for Ezra.
And Chad,
I completely agree with that.
I'm not saying don't listen to our show. I'm saying that like if you're shocked that we're not into WoW Classic, don't be shocked. Like, we're not talking about vanilla these days. I mean, we are actually. It's weird. But generally speaking, we're not talking about vanilla on this show. So my point isn't don't listen to the show. If you enjoy the show, listen to the show. If you don't, then yeah, sure, move on. But if you're like, why do these guys have such a bad take on WoW Classic? Because we're not going to play it. We're not interested in it. Like, that's the reality.
So, here's the thing. And, you know, we talked about it in the car. We're talking about it now and everything. I totally agree that I am very happy that it's being made, because there is an audience out there who wants it. And you know what? Instead of doing it illegally, now they have a way of actually doing it legitimately, which I personally, I'm for always supporting the creators of the content that I enjoy. So if they're able to do it legitimately, that's great. I am very happy that they're finally getting what they've been wanting for and yelling about for years and years and years and years. The thing that I find, and I mean, excuse me for this, but I find the funniest is when they get to the top and they're like, I wish this had more content. Too bad there's not an expansion coming. You know, it's like there's only so much you can do. If you go through and you get Lore Master, even though achievements didn't exist back then, you know, you go through, you do every single, you know, quest in the game or something for both sides. It's like that's kind of it. You know,
that'll be the interesting thing, is whether or not they have a convert your character from a classic character to a modern WoW character, whether or not that exists. So you could actually say, I played on the classic servers. I really enjoy all the classic experience. I do want to experience Burning Crusade and everything beyond that. I'm going to hit the convert button, which will permanently move my character from a classic server onto a live server. I don't know why I say live, but current server. And then that'll actually, you know, you won't be able to go backwards, but you can only go forwards, and then you can actually play through the rest of the stuff if that's the decision you choose to make. If you're really committed in a whatever, maybe it's a role-playing thing, maybe it's you just want to progress and you're really committed to that character that you've leveled, you could choose to do that. Like, that might be an option they go with.
Yeah, and one of the big things that I found really funny, in fact, I think I tweeted this like during the press conference or the opening ceremony, whatever you want to call it. I think it's fantastic that current WoW is getting this whole, you know, like basically flexible leveling thing. You know, each of the zones has a, you know, wide range and things scale to you and everything like that. And then all of a sudden it's like you go back, it's like, oh, okay, well, I have to go here now. Or I have to go there now, you know.
And I ran out of quests.
Yeah, exactly.
I ran out of quests, so I got to just grind mobs.
Let's go kill boars.
I can't afford a mount.
Yeah, I mean, there's just there's so much that's been added, and like we've said, it's progressed and grown, and I mean, if you did play back in vanilla, or even, you know, start in Burning Crusade like me, think about 13 years ago, the time that you had that you could actually sink into this.
Yeah.
Now, think about the quality of life improvements that have happened since then and how easy it is to level and all that stuff. Like, do those people looking back, do they think that they're going to be able to devote the same amount of time? I mean, there's so many different things out there that it I guess I want to say it just confuses me on why you want to take the step back. And I get that the nostalgia is there. I get the, preserving classic WoW, which I agree with you, Jason. I think that's great because there's no way to see it. It gives people, a chance to, but I don't understand the drive for it. I just really don't.
I mean, I feel like we've established it's not for us, and I,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily, like, I think there's value in talking about this. I don't want to poo-poo this topic, but at the same time, we're all sitting here going, I don't get it. But at the same time, we're all like, yeah, it's not for us. So, I mean, there are people out there. I heard from somebody who said, yeah, I started playing at Cataclysm. I think it'd be really cool to see what it was like before Cataclysm. And then I told them that they had to buy and carry all their arrows with them, and so enjoy it, and then you're going to probably give it up. And they were like, yeah, probably. And I think there's value there, but I just think it's ultimately that's the answer, is that it's not for us, so we're not going to get what that appeal is. But for the people out there that have it and are going to find it and enjoy it, like, cool. I hope they do right by you guys. Like, I don't know what you want, but I hope you get it. Whatever it is, I hope you get it. I would be interested. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It might actually be really cool for RPers because it's a more locked system. You know everything that happens. The world is expansive and difficult to traverse compared to the way it is today. You can't fly. So there might be a lot of opportunities for RPers to get involved in classic servers because you do have to kind of make your own fun in a lot of ways in WoW 1.x. You have to, there's a lot of mundane tasks you have to do in order to, like Spencer was saying, get raid mats and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And the world just felt really dangerous back then. Questing was more difficult than it is today. You had Alliance and Horde zones bumping up against each other. So if you leveled on a PvP server like I did, then, there were areas of the world that were legitimately super dangerous to be out in. So there could be an opportunity there for RPers and RP PvP, which could be really cool. You don't have to worry about that constant march of time on the live servers where there's always patches and new stuff to do and then changes happen. And, so maybe for that community, they could really find some value there.
Well, kind of taking that, talking about PvP and the changes that they're making to, PvP in the world now. I mean, I was actually really shocked that there's going to be no such thing as a PvP server, no such thing as a PvE server. And I like the idea that, anybody can opt in when they want, well, as long as they're, in their faction city or whatever. But do you think that this really changes like a huge dynamic to, the leveling experience in the game when, you can go out and be like, okay, well, I want to level today, but let's make it risky, or I just don't want to deal with it. Giving that option to kind of jump back and forth. Like, how do you think it's actually going to change the game? Anyone?
I'll go. I've been talking a lot, but I'll keep talking.
Jason wants to go. That's why I waited. Like, Jason has an answer to this. He wants to.
So one thing I think that is really cool about this system is that no matter what server you ended up on, you're not locked into a gameplay style. If you're on a PvP server and you hate it, you don't have to spend any money or any gold or whatever you're going to do to get that transfer. If you play on a PvE server, but you like fighting people in the outdoor world, like I do, then you have the option to do that without having to spend any money. So that's cool. The other cool thing is that we're back to having like Alliance turf and Horde turf. That's something we really haven't had in a meaningful way since Classic. We have these continents that everybody's planting their stakes kind of, and we have to go there for various story and gameplay reasons. And you're in enemy territory. That's really cool. That hasn't been a part of the game for a really long time. There's been world PvP events and stuff like, Burning Crusade. They had like the world PvP objectives. You had Winter Grasp. You had that stuff. That was all really fun, but it wasn't the same thing as like, okay, we have to go into enemy territory for this next, quest line or whatever it may be. And if you don't want to do it, you don't even have to see it happening. You'll be only with other PvEers. And if you want to do the world PvP stuff, you'll only be with PvPers. So that adds a lot of cool opportunities for them to include different types of world PvP content. They can tailor stuff and know that like anybody who rolls up here knows what they signed up for. So I really like that. And I'm looking forward to it. I love World PvP and Legion, probably because I'm a decently geared tank. The changes this week were a little bit weird. I feel like combat is lasting super long. I was still, 1v2ing, 1v3ing people in like Dark Brule arenas, but we were in combat for like 4 minutes. I know that they don't want people getting like globaled essentially. Which I understand to a degree, but I don't know if the super long combat gameplay is fun either. So there, it's a first step. They may have to tweak it some more.
Yeah. But I mean, I would say as far as world PvP and the merging of servers and all that kind of stuff is going, I am sort of the same way as John was about classic servers. I'm glad that it's there for people who want to do it. I think that's great. I've never been someone who wanted to play on a PvP server because whenever something happens to flag me on my PvE server and I just get ganked and killed within 1.2 seconds or 2 seconds, it's just not fun. It's just not fun for me. Or if I'm trying to accomplish a task and someone just keeps chasing me and going after me, like I just feel like that's a pain in the butt. I just want to get whatever I'm doing done and move on to the next thing that I want to do. So to me, that's always been my opinion of it. So I'm glad it exists, but the concern I have is that you're going to have a situation where Jason's playing and I want to play with Jason, but Jason's flagged, which means I can't heal Jason unless I'm flagged. So then I have to flag, and then you create this whole thing of now I'm flagged, and it takes me 5 minutes to get unflagged. So if we finish whatever we're doing and I want to stop PvPing, you can't just stop PvPing. Like, you have to get away from the people you're fighting, or the people who are fighting you, or the people who are chasing you. And I just feel like that you now have that situation of that, what it used to be. I remember we used to call this inside raid. It was like the raid plague, where someone would show up flagged.
Yep.
or like everyone would have to flag, or else you've now caused the whole raid to have. Like, I feel like that's the same. That's just coming back. And so as much as I like that this is blending servers and it's allowing people the option to do it and all that kind of stuff, I do feel like there's the concern of that sort of raid plague coming back of, well, if you aren't flagged, you can't heal Joe, and you need to be able to heal Joe. So you better.
But that won't happen anymore because the tech doesn't work that way anymore. You can only flag up in a capital city, and then you're out in the outdoor world with other people who are the same flag as you. You can't just go, I'm going to flag up and terrorize people who aren't flagged or whatever. You can't. You literally can't do that anymore.
Yep. You have to go to the city to decide to terrorize people.
So that's like a communal thing. Like, are we going to flag up and go to the stone, or are we going to unflag and go to the stone?
Situation, because then if the same thing of if I want to just jump in and tag up with you, I then have to go to a capital city and flag.
Yeah.
Or you would then have to go to a capital city and unflag for us to do something together, which is going to be a huge pain in the butt when it comes down to just having free flow gameplay. So I don't see that staying. That's an early thing that they're talking about. I don't see that staying. I'd be really surprised if they're like, you have to go to the Battle Hall of Order or whatever it is inside of your capital city to be able to put on your PvP thing and go out there and do stuff, because you'll just end up with a lot of people being like, I hate having to always go back to the city to be able to do this.
Well, I mean, I'm sure people will say that. I don't see them backing off on it because of the rewards aspect, but but I don't know. I do think it's like I started on a PvP server and I eventually fell off of interest with it around Burning Crusade because that was the era of, hey, I was the first one to get to 70 and get my flying mount, and now I just swoop down and kill people, and isn't that fun? And there was a time where I was eventually like, I don't think that's actually fun. I've thought about it, and it turns out I don't think I like it. And so I gave up, and I went to a PvE server after that.
And that's when I finally decided to play.
But I liked the game, and I liked PvP, and this is going to be a nice way for me to occasionally, make me feel good about the bloodlust that comes up every now and then, where it's just like, oh yeah, I want to get out there and PvP. I did a battleground recently because I got to start getting PvP kills to unlock an artifact appearance, and I was like, so now I went into a battleground, and it was the Warsong Gulch, and I did the rogue thing, and I just stealthed near the exit, and every time the flag bearer came out, boop, and it was was so fun, you guys. It was so much fun. It's been so long since I did that. And every now and then I think it's just good to reactivate that sort of thing, and I think being able to do it on a worldwide scale would be really, really cool and really, really enjoyable, because I do miss it every now and then, but I do hit that point where I'm like, okay, I want to turn it off. It was fun for a while, but now I'm ready for it to be gone, and I feel like this opens it. But speaking of nostalgia, which we were talking about...
Well, hold on. So I gotta share a little story that I absolutely love. Some of the happiest times that I've ever seen Row and WoW is when our raid team it was when we were raiding Emerald Nightmare. For some reason on our raid night, it always happened where there was always a few alliance that were flagged, and Maui would look at him, Row would look at him, Neverending would look at him, and they'll just kind of look at him, and then they'd switch over and they start attacking, and then all of a sudden when one of them died, Row just yelled, "Get him!" Just, I mean, it was like the happiest sound I've ever heard him make in his life, and it kind of became a tradition for a while. And I like the idea of being able to flag whenever, but at the same time, I don't like it because if like you just happen to be leftover flagged, or God forbid you're trying to do world quests and you just end up in a PvP area and you're not paying attention, and you're just a nice little happy healing monk and you're walking around and all of a sudden you die from getting shot in the back by a warlock. Yeah, but I mean, yeah. Anyway, sorry, John.
One thing on that too is, like, we're talking about ganking, right? Like what we keep coming back to is, oh, I don't want to get ganked. World PvP, I don't like it because I don't want to get ganked. But this system creates an opportunity for new gameplay spaces in World PvP. If you funnel all the World PvPers into a space where there's something to do, then they're probably not going to spend a lot of time just ganking people for no reason.
True.
Your time in WoW is valuable, a lot more valuable than it used to be. So I feel like there are, now obviously there's still going to be people who just want to gank people who don't want to fight.
I told you the story of on Hallow's End, dude. There were people sitting outside the gates of Stormwind ganking people as they came back from bombing the Horde city with stink bombs. They would just sit there and wait, and you'd come off your mount and they'd just jump on you and kill you. They'd sit there and wait.
And if we had
they just sat there and waited the whole day doing that. Like,
if we had the current World PvP, if we had the new World PvP system, all of those people who were trying to do that would have died 40 times, because they would have been outside the gates of Stormwind, and every player there would have been PvP flagged. So again, now you're funneling all that gameplay into one space. There's always gonna be gankers. There's always gonna be griefers, and that's part of World PvP. That's part of making the world feel dangerous, and that's something that you now are going to have a lot of freedom to opt into or out of. But I feel like it does provide them opportunity to say, here's a cool thing to go do. If you're World PvP flagged, you should be checking this out, which they don't have that right now. They've tried to do it a lot of times in the past, and it's never really worked. But I think with this implementation of PvP rules, it could start that kind of process. And because we have so much better reward systems now, if you get a little extra Azerite bump or something from holding this watchtower or whatever it may be, I think there's a lot of cool opportunities there. So we'll see what we end up actually getting.
Yeah, I agree. And I, we talked about it. I just want to mention it real quick because there's a couple things I'm nostalgic for. Speaking of, it's kind of been a theme with this, because that's the thing is, like, here's where I understand the classic server people. There are things in this game I'm nostalgic for that I feel very strongly like, gosh, I miss that. I miss that so much. And
those teleport runes, man. I miss those teleport runes that I used to have.
The two raid teams waiting to go into a raid together, and they're sitting there and one's Alliance and one's Horde. And you're just waiting for and you're on a PvE server and everybody's sitting there and everything's peaceful, and then one guy flags. And you're just like, what is this guy doing? You know what he's doing. You know exactly what he's doing. And then one guy on your team flags and it's like, what? And all of a sudden you've got all this posturing going back and forth. And it was just so much fun to see and to do and to experience. Like, I'm nostalgic for that. And I think that's a thing that can come back. I don't want to go back to vanilla. I have moved on. I love my time there. It was great. But there are pieces of it that they can capture. And I think what Jason was talking about with the world felt more dangerous back then was spot on. It did. And part of that might have been I played PvP server during vanilla. And I feel like this is a chance to recapture that. Like, if I want to go through Battle for Azeroth and I want to flag PvP for the entire thing and get that feeling again of, oh, this is what it's like to be in where anything could happen. Like, it could go bad. I can do that, and that can be fun and exciting for me again. And if I get sick of it and I think, no, I just want a casual night, I don't want to worry about Alliance players killing me, I can turn that off, and I can do that too. And I think it's a good balance without me having to switch servers or make a decision that's going to just be permanent and forever for my account. Like, that was the hardest part about leaving a PvP server, was I was saying, yeah, I'm not enjoying it right now, but I have to make a decision to either put up with something I don't like right now in the hopes that it eventually gets better, or that I change my mind, or I have to say goodbye to it for the foreseeable future. And then maybe spend money to do it again. And I think this system allows that to be catered to a little bit, and I'm really looking forward to it, honestly.
So, okay, I doubt this will happen. Like, 100% doubt this will happen. But I love the idea that the only time that you can, turn on PvP and everything is if, you're in a capital city. Now, imagine if that was the only time you can turn it on. So then it's like, hey, I'm my Horde Panda. I'm just walking right into, Ironforge. Just want to see the sights, say hi to people. Can't kill me. I'm friendly. Just want to hang out.
Enemy faction guards don't aggro you on site, for example.
Or if they do aggro you, they don't flag you. So then you can kill them and kill faction leaders without becoming flagged.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, they talked about in the Q&A yesterday about, incentivizing, killing faction leaders and everything like that. So, I mean, I'm not saying that being able to go in and not have everybody else jump on you and attack you and everything would be, would actually happen. But I don't know. It's one of those systems where you start, changing one thing. There's a cascade of a bunch of other things that changes. So I'm just kind of curious to see how it's all going to play out in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shift, right? The rules have been in place basically the way they are now for 13 years.
Yeah. They
haven't made any giant changes to the way PvP flagging works ever. So, yeah, I mean, there's been some, like, with where you can't get like auto flagged as easily from AoE effects or something like that.
Being a mage, very happy about that.
Yeah, like there's been some quality of life adjustments, but that's more in keeping with the spirit of the current rule set. This is throwing that out the window. So there's a lot of stuff that we don't know yet. There's a lot of stuff we're still going to learn. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, they'll be collecting a lot of player feedback during beta. So, it's a thing that's going to evolve over time, but it's kind of cool to sweep those 13-year-old rules away. They made sense in 2004. We live in a different universe from that rule set. So it'll be interesting to see what the implementation for 8.0 is and how it evolves.
Yeah. So Spencer, question for you.
Shoot.
What thing from Battle for Azeroth are you looking forward to the most?
There's been so much talk about island expeditions that has got me excited. But I think it's probably what was hinted at is us getting Lordaeron back, and how that is going to look and revamp, because I feel like the changes that have happened to Stormwind City since Cataclysm, and then obviously we got an update where they built Varian's area in that as well, have been really neat. And Lordaeron is a city that, as we saw in the cinematic, is just such an epic big space of what could stand as a really major alliance city. So I'm pumped to see what the revamped zones are going to look like, is kind of the big thing. So we have Stromgarde, we have Lordaeron, I just like changes to the world. Like I know that they are destructive in the way that they take away what we're currently seeing. So Cataclysm was really destructive because it took away a lot of old world, which is part of why we're getting Classic, is I think people get that nostalgia feel and be able to go back to see it. But if we get to take Lordaeron back and then it goes under construction for a period of time, and then later on we've actually built something, that would be pretty cool. that's a pretty neat thing to me. I think lore wise, we're gonna have some pretty cool stuff happen with that in Battle for Azeroth, and that's what's got me pretty excited. I mean, I dig all the other stuff that's happening, but if I had to pick one thing, I think it's just the ever changing world that we live in and the lore that goes along with it.
Of course, there's going to be a quest for the Alliance side to get rid of all the plague that's in Undercity. Drain the moat. You have to find a place to dump it.
They have to change the Halloween event. We can't be bombing our own city, right?
Very true.
Something's gonna happen. Man.
Also, I hope you like Brill. There's a lot of like lightning rods and electricity and weird things happening there. So good luck.
That was something that actually Chris Robinson tried to bring up when we were talking about cities that have been really changed since Cataclysm, and Brill was the one that he really wanted to say as a standout of this is substantially changed. And I'm curious if it is going to substantially change once the whole retaking of Lordaeron stuff happens, or at least once that battle happens, and what that's going to look like. But yeah, I mean, like a lot of the features that are happening are cool. Like I love the help us out stuff that's happening in 7.3.5 for leveling. I think that's going to be really cool and good. I'm really pumped for that, helping, the scalable zones. Like those are all neat features, but I think game-wise, I'm excited for the lore of what's happening with the Alliance and Horde fights that are happening. That's cool.
John, now that you've had some time to think about it, do you have an actual official, honest-to-goodness, most excited feature or thing that you're looking forward to?
No.
Jason, how
No,
about...
that's not 100% true. I'm having a hard time with it, honestly. So I tweeted this, and I'm going to say this in the most optimistic way that I can. Legion was phenomenal. Still is. Still loving Legion. I'm logging in basically daily, and I love it. It's a phenomenal expansion. It's better than I even thought when I was like, I think this might be really good. And they've just exceeded expectations. When we were going from Warlords to Legion, they had to prove themselves to me. I hated Warlords. We have listeners who went back through our back catalog and were like, I had to skip some of your Warlords episodes. Because I think the truth is we were just like, yeah, it's more Warlords, guys. I don't know. Whoops. And it's like, I don't blame them one bit. It was rough. And Legion really won me over. Like, it needed to prove itself, and it totally did. And it was fantastic, and it was wonderful. So now we're at the other side of the spectrum. They have to lose me, because they've convinced me that they know what's really good. They have convinced me that, I'm on board with what they're doing and where they're taking this game and all of that. I'm there. But when I look down the feature list of Battle for Azeroth, nothing has grabbed me. The things they are getting rid of are basically the things I loved about Legion. The things they're doubling down on are the things I didn't care about Legion. And as a result, I'm concerned, but I'm trying to stay optimistic about it. Because again, I didn't know I was going to love these things about Legion. They convinced me when I played it, and it was great. So I'm in the same boat now where it's like, I don't know if I like any of this. But I think I might, because they've convinced me before. So yeah. I'm very excited about the new races. I think that's always a cool addition to the game. I'm 100% on board for that. And now we'll see how I ultimately land on some of the other stuff. So this is real quick. I'll keep it as quick as I can. This was a funny BlizzCon story that I said I would tell on the show, and I will. I went to a Blizzard party. I met some Blizzard devs. They wanted to get my feedback about what I thought of Legion and what I expected. And
this was before the announcement, correct?
This was before the announcement, yes. We had no idea what we were getting. And they were like, well, what do you think would be the craziest thing we could do? Like, what would be the most exciting for you? And again, I didn't know anything, you guys. I had no idea what I was saying. And I looked at them and I said, what if they got rid of factions? Because honestly, I'm sick of this Horde versus Alliance stuff. It's the most uninteresting story to me. Like, it's told over and over again. Oh, we hate each other. Now we like each other. Now we hate each other. And I was just like, I'm just so done with it. Like, it's time to be done. It makes the game worse every time they double down on it. I just don't like it. And they were like, oh, That's an interesting thought. And like then after the fact, I was like, oh my gosh, could I have said a worse possible thing in the world? Like, but I mean,
did they escort you out of the party at that point? Like, sir, you have to leave now.
But it's true. It is how I feel, and they may convince me otherwise. This might also be them acknowledging that that's been a problem, and them saying, well, this is going to be it. This is going to be the thing. And this is the way we put a button on it. So
the real funny thing is that the Overwatch devs were talking to him, and he's like, "Yeah, I just hate that shooting of each other of the teams. I'm kind of tired of that.
The red versus
Shooting
blue.
needs to go.
Why can't we just all be on the same team
What's
against
with
Junk
the
and
guns?
all the time? Like that would be.
Look, you guys and I guys both know that you made a cosplay game. Where's the game where we just download fun outfits and wear them and look at each other and do voice lines at
That's
one
the
another?
mobile app.
That's every game. That's every game that exists, actually.
Yeah, I think I mean, one of the things you touched on is just that repeating pattern of, hey, we get an expansion where we all focus on a bad guy, and then we get one where we start the fight back up between us. We get an expansion where we focus on a bad guy, and then we get the one where we fight against each other again. And that sort of rhythm they've been doing. I would like it if this expansion just brought back the fight between Horde versus Alliance, and it just became a thing that just was a steady thing, continuing through expansions, where they just found ways to piece that in through all the, as opposed to being like, no, big world-ending thing, we got to team up again.
Or if they got rid of it altogether.
Well, the problem is that an MMORPG is not a good story delivery vehicle. It's just not. Yeah. You get a big chunk of story every 2 years. You get dribbles here and there in between. And that's it. So they can only focus on one thing at a time, really. Otherwise, I mean, look at the story we've gotten through Legion patches has been great, but it's very narrow. It only really focuses on a few characters, and even that is like the most stuff they've ever patched into the game story-wise.
Well,
so
yeah, and that was my frustration with Legion, was I felt like it started with, here's every story and a kitchen sink. And it was like, wow, you guys are doing it. You're doing every story. This is great. And then I cared about one of them, and then it fell off along with all the others, and most of those stories went nowhere, and then they focused on one story, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But all those seeds are planted, you know. They planted enough seeds in the Legion leveling stories to feed into 3 or 4 expansions down the road. It's probably the most like seeding of storylines and like untouched threads since War 3. So I think that's really good for the health and future of the game narratively. And again, it's, you know, I just don't think that an MMORPG is a great story delivery vehicle. You know, it can do certain things really well, but the story is always going to be kind of thin because you got to hang all kinds of repeatable gameplay around it.
I would believe you if I hadn't played Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Do you still play Star Wars: The Old Republic?
Every time they put out a story expansion.
Well, yeah, I think WoW wants you a little bit more engaged than just playing through the story.
But I mean, that's my point, is like, you're not wrong, but at the same time, I've seen it. Because I literally will break that out every time they're like, hey, we did an expansion, there's more story. I'm like, great. Because that's the other end of the spectrum from WoW. WoW's like, here's the drip feed of story for you, but really solid gameplay. And Old Republic is the, here's an amazing story that you have control over and feels good and you really get invested, and a drip feed of solid gameplay. Like it's really rough. But I think it can be done. How they find the medium there is tough.
It's a core company value, man. Right on the orc it says gameplay first.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a video game. You got to play it.
Very true. So Jason,
yes.
Biggest thing you're looking forward to in BFA?
So I'm going to couch this in a lot of stuff. I think I had this moment when Legion came out. Like I did my traditional thing of I took a vacation from work. I played at 3 a.m. Local time when servers went live, and I played for like 2 days straight, taking like, you know, meal breaks and sleeping and stuff, but just playing. I had to do some grocery shopping, and so on like Thursday after launch, I had taken a break, and I had gotten to 110. I had unlocked world quests and stuff, and I started to see how all these systems dovetailed together and the gradual, persistent progression, and I was like, wow, this is just what WoW is now. Like this is the way the game is going to be now. They're going to just carry all this stuff forward forever now that they've figured it out. So I'm excited about that Legion Foundation going forward into Battle for Azeroth because I like world quests, I like persistent character progression, I like Mythic Plus dungeons. I think those are core systems to the game as it currently stands, and I'm excited to see what did they learn from how people use that stuff in Legion and how can they make it better. But in terms of like actual new features in BFA, and I kind of agree with John to a degree, probably a smaller degree than the level that he's on, because I like the I like the foundation. Yeah, I like the foundation that they're building on in Legion a lot, and like the core gameplay elements that are carrying forward. So I do expect that BFA is going to level off from Legion a lot. Legion was really good, like probably my favorite era of the game ever. So it's hard to follow that up and take it to another level. But of the new features that we've seen, I think War Fronts are what really speak to me. I'm a big RTS fan. I love War 3. And I'm hoping that this turns out into a cool feature. I like what little they've shown of it to us, and I know they have a lot of work to do, but I like bringing that RTS flavor into WoW proper. Finally, it's something that I wondered if they could ever really do. And I mean, what they showed us looked great. So I'm hoping that it's a rewarding thing that's fun to go back and do persistently and feels rewarding. Because that RTS, I'm like, when they showed Garrisons back in 2013 with the Warlords reveal, I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is kind of that RTS feel. We're making buildings, we get resources from the buildings, you have different choices to make. We're like commanding troops. Like, this is cool. This is like old school Warcraft. And it just didn't play like that at all. This is a lot different because you're going to be literally fighting the other side. You're going to have tech trees. You're going to have an enemy commander that you have to defeat. So there's actual like combat gameplay based around this RTS flavor. So that's really exciting to me. Hopefully at the end of the day, what it's going to come down to is how rewarding does it feel? What do you get for investing time in a Warfront? What if it takes 45 minutes to do a Warfront scenario? Mm-hmm. And it's 20 players all kind of doing their own thing, and it doesn't feel organized, and it doesn't feel like you're working towards an objective and everybody's just building the thing that they want to build.
Yeah.
Well, then what happens? If I get, a 10% of my Azerite bar filled for that, am I going to do that repeatedly? I don't know. So
we'll do it 9 more times for that 100%.
Right. Like, I mean, there's going to be other things that I would rather do probably, because that doesn't sound like a super efficient way. I mean, it's weird because WoW is just a game like we we're kind of talking about in World PvP. If you funnel players into an activity and make it worth their while, they're going to participate in it. So okay, let's say we've gotten to the point where we've unlocked our full tech tree in Warfronts, and we've gotten all the the kind of metagame upgrades that we can get outside of the Warfronts. Why do we keep doing them? So we didn't get a lot of answers about that yet, but I'm really excited about that system. And how cool would it be if, going forward, we just had new Warfronts every couple patches, maybe revisit like old school War 3 battles or War 2 battles. That could be awesome. It could be a really cool system if it plays out decently well and the reward tier is there to keep people participating.
The speed at which it plays is really important to me, because one of the largest concerns I had immediately was it was a 45-minute thing. As we're speculating, we just know it's going to be longer than Island Expeditions, which are 20 to 30 minutes long, so we have an idea. But let's say it's a 45-minute thing, and 10 to 15 minutes of that
is stuff falling and breaking. Got it.
It's disaster, apparently.
My cat destroying everything that's on my right.
Sounds about right.
What if 10 to 15 minutes of that is gathering wood to build buildings, or is, moving around and right-clicking on cogs to be able to do things within your... Like, is that going to feel fun? Is that going to feel like you're productively doing something? Like, I that aspect of the game to me isn't a huge, big, fun thing. Like, even the... when we were in Pandaria and you had to do the farm, I enjoyed the farm, but at a certain point, you got kind of tired of pulling weeds and running away from your farm for 6 or 7 minutes sometimes each day, right? And it's like, okay, well, if each time I have to do that for 10 minutes every time I do one of these Warfronts, like they have to figure out the balance for that.
Yeah. So before I close off, let me just say the thing that I'm most excited for. And it is something that has not been confirmed at all, something that is probably not going to happen.
Ben
but
made it up. It's a made up
I'm making it
feature.
up.
Ben's ready to be disappointed. Yay.
Yeah. I think that if they are ever going to get rid of the two faction thing, or at least get rid of the actual Alliance versus Horde before they move on, full blown into an actual storyline, this is going to be the expansion for it, because it's the battle for Azeroth. That seems kind of final in some sense. We had a whole expansion where we're heads of these order halls. All of a sudden, half my order hall is fighting the other half after we came together to do everything. I mean, they've really got to sell me on the story for it. And that's one thing that I'm really looking forward to is, why does Teldrassil get burned? Who knows? And, that's the big thing that I'm looking forward to, is not just that mystery, but seeing how it plays out, and, the hope that the devs and story writers are able to keep Horde and Alliance both gray and not black and white. So,
I mean, they've done a good job of that historically. So,
they've always had leaders or characters that stay in the gray, right? Who have friends on either side, and they're, conflicted as to the decisions they're making, or they're doing secret meetings so that their faction doesn't really know what's going on. So
exactly.
A lot of WoW story development. It's second act storytelling. It's a new issue of Amazing Spider-Man every month. I mean, really, like, nobody can ever really win or lose or die because you can't close those doors because other people might want to use them later. I mean, it's really very much in that method of that kind of episodic or serialized storytelling where it's always the second act. We're always in the second act in WoW, and we always will be, because that's what drives the gameplay engine.
Exactly. Anyways, Jason, Spencer, it has been absolutely fantastic having you on the show. I really appreciate it. You guys have been great.
Thank you for having us, man. It's been a lot lot. Been looking forward to this.
Definitely.
Show chat.
It's been too long since we teamed up in some way. So
definitely. So in the meantime, Jason, where can people find you?
The best place to find me is over on Twitter. You can find me over there at Shieldwald. I'm always talking about whatever I'm doing in WoW, whatever WoW news is going on. Maybe some StarCraft 2 esports. Not for a while. Next year, once we get back rolling into a new season. And you can also find me on Twitch, streaming over at twitch.tv/Shieldwald. I stream raid nights, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Sundays. So we start at 7:30 Eastern. I am a Prot Warrior main and a raid leader, so that if you want to check that POV out, you can see me doing that stuff. And you can find me on the Starting Zone.
Oh, that's interesting. Spencer, have you ever heard of the Starting Zone?
Yes. Why, thank you for the segue. That is excellent. You can find the Starting Zone on Spazbot Studios Tuesday nights at just after 6 o'clock Eastern time. We do a live stream for that show. You can also find it on your iTunes, Twitter, Stitcher, everything else. That's the Starting Zone podcast. It's a World of Warcraft podcast for new and experienced players. If you're looking for me online, you can find me on Twitter at Spencer_Downey, or over on Twitch at twitch.tv/SpencerHD. And yeah, just thanks again for bringing us on, guys. We really appreciate it. And we're looking forward to finding a time to fit you, Ben, back on Starting Zone, and you as well, John, back on Starting Zone for the first time. That'd be
great.
Yay. John, what about you? Where can people find you?
Best place to find me is follow me on Twitter. I'll let you know where I'm going to be and what I'm up to. That's John_Jagger on Twitter. If you want to hear me talk about Heroes of the Storm, I encourage you to check out Core, which is the Heroes of the Storm show that I do, part of the Frog Pants Network. You can find out more information about that at heroesforyou.com. Ben.
Yes, John.
Where can people find you, man?
Best place to find me is on Twitter. I'm at Ben the Mage. I also do a show with Eludra called Battle Pets, where we talk about battle pets in the World of Warcraft. I've also started streaming a bit more. I've been actually playing some WoW and everything, so check out my Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Ben Bumhofer. Really easy to find me there. This show, however, Azeroth Roundtable, you can find us on Twitter. We are at AzerothRT. If you have any questions, comments, want to tell us and gush about how great classic servers are, you can send those emails to AzerothRoundtable@gmail.com. All of our shows are found on AzerothRoundtable.com, as well as on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Alpha Geek Radio, pretty much wherever fine podcasts and not so fine podcasts are found. That's about it, John, I think.
Sweet. Well, this episode and all our episodes brought to you by you. I'm going to say you one more time. You, by going to patreon.com/AzerothRT and supporting us. A big thank you to the Murloc Club, Aaron and Simon. Thank you for supporting us. Ben, do a sound. Great. You can join the Murloc Club or just support us at whatever tier you feel appropriate by going to patreon.com/AzerothRT. Our thanks as always.
Yes, and with that, again, Spencer, Jason, it was great seeing you at BlizzCon, and thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Thank you, guys. A pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, be safe out there, and hug a Murloc.
Sure.
Yeah, that's where we'll end that.
Great.
Hey.
Yeah.
And
Well,
hey,
great
everybody.
episode, guys. Thank you.
We
Dude,
also need to give a shout out to Lagging Balls because they usually send people our way, and now we can do the same. We can reciprocate.
Oh.
No one will
Yeah.
ever accuse us of not being reciprocating podcasts. Hey, everybody, Lagging Balls is going on. And
Yeah, their live stream. Make sure to go to twitch.tv/laggingballs. Tell them the Murloc sent you.
yeah, go in and say core in all caps.
Well, that's one way to do it.
Sure.
Core.
Anyway, that's gonna be the show. Thank you all so much. You all have a fantastic weekend. This has been your Friday in Azeroth, and we're calling it there.